So everyone's been dipping into the nectar of selfless self and enjoying.
Yeah.
There's no questions and everybody's got it, you know.
Yeah.
Sure. I will say there was like 2 days ago that I did the mantra almost all day.
Good.
It's a beautiful day.
Good.
Wow.
You know, I didn't get, distracted and pulled and, all the junk that normally goes on.
Good. It's like using this body as a cup to dip into selfless self, and you get intoxicated. The more you selfless self, the more you want to remain with your selfless self, and you don't want to give yourself away. And it is literally like, you're getting drunk on that nectar of immortality, like Nisargadatta Maharaj has talked about. That presence, you're just like, you continue with mantra and the presence is so strong, and you're just like literally using the body only as a cup to dip into the presence that you are.
Yeah, the videos help a lot, actually. It just reminded me, because sometimes my mind drifts away and I'm involved in so much, but basically it was very helpful because, it just reminded me to put myself back to the presence, which is prior to everything else. It's even prior to beingness. Just that, whatever you want to call it, presence or pure consciousness, I don't know, just basically that is, that's the cutoff point. That's my true identity. And then there's the other part that kind of like gets projected out as me and everything else going on. So it's, being aware of that, and you got to be involved with the things you're doing in life. Of course, you're working and all that kind of stuff. But nevertheless, it's easier for me to get back to that, just taking a break and so forth, and just kind of like reminding myself of that. The mantra helps too, and basically the mantra to me means staying in that presence, basically, in that place.
Exactly. Well, that's like Nisargadatta Maharaj calls it the I am, remaining with the I am, and how you come out, do something, use the body for whatever it is needed, and then go back and come back and come back. And then you're just remaining in that sense of presence. That last video that Maharaj did, he talked about the tea, and he's like, okay, I have to take ego of body to enjoy this tea, but then I put it down. And I'm not thinking about the tea from yesterday, or he said, then you have lunch. Okay, then you make a lunch, you enjoy lunch, and then you enjoy dinner, and then you enjoy dinner. But you're not keeping all this pressures of memory and all this, like all these things I'm doing. It's just using the body and in the moment and dropping and dropping and dropping.
Right.
And not even having to think about doing that, because it's just a spontaneous, all actions are spontaneous actions. So remaining in that sense of presence knows that all this is appearing on my spontaneous presence. It's a dreamlike state. So I don't have to get really super involved. I got to be involved and do what I'm doing in the moment, but I don't have to keep thinking about it or thinking about outcomes or anything like that.
Correct.
The body, and that's it. Like we just talked, like this is a cup to dip into that eternal nectar of selfless self, of presence, and drink that and feel that presence and remain there. And then literally selfless self-intoxication, spiritual intoxication, because you just want more and more and more and more. And remember too, the presence, anything that appears to you, you had to be there for this to appear to you. So out of that nothingness, this presence came, and then the entire world came on that. So you're that sort of nothing, no knowing, and then there's a knowing inside the spontaneous existence. But that spontaneous existence appeared to you because it had to appear to somebody. You wouldn't know the spontaneous existence if you weren't there prior to it.
Correct, yeah.
And then that gets back to the fact that, and that's the really, really, really great part, is this entire world appeared on my spontaneous presence. And like Maharaj says, spirit clicked with the body, and suddenly I exist. And at first I think I exist in body form, but then I start to investigate myself, and I know this sense of existence, I felt it through body form. I didn't need to know it, and there was nothing to know. But then there was something to know, and now I just have to know in a real sense. No, that sense of existence is actually my formless existence, and all of this form is occurring inside of that, or on my spontaneous presence. Oh, we have some people. Mary and Mary.
You
Now, is that two Marys or one Mary and it's like duplicated?
I don't know how she did that if it's the same Mary.
That's very cool. Like, I can now be two. Your presence is in every being, and there's two.
Yeah, you can duplicate yourself. Why not? No.
Yeah.
Sorry, adjusting here.
It's all good. But yeah, the formless existence, so when things start to happen in form, I'm not concerned. How? Why? In the moment, of course, but it's not like, like Maharaj talks about in your dream. You do these things in your dream, and then you wake up from dream and it's completely finished. So while I'm using body form, my formlessness, I still am. So I'm using body form, but the formlessness I'll return to, because I'm formless now. I was formless prior to body. I'm formless after body. I won't know these things because there'll be no instrument of knowing, but the formlessness always is, because that form appeared to the formlessness that I am. Had you not been there, formless, then the form could not have appeared to you. Just like the thought, I'm prior to thought. I can sit there and observe a thought, so therefore I'm prior to this thought arising.
Like a pure potentiality.
Exactly.
That's what would make you fearless, I suppose.
Because you're formless. What? It's just like a game. But still, you don't have to keep reminding, like Maharaj says, you don't have to keep saying, oh, I'm Brahman, I'm Brahman, I'm Brahman. That spontaneous conviction arises. Oh, this sense of presence, I am that. Okay, so that I. So now I can do my daily activities and such, but this mind that came along with the body, I'm no longer concerned in what it's speaking about because it's in the form state. And if I do get caught up in it, then I just go back to that presence. Remain with the I am. Dip your cup using this body into the nectar of the immortality, that spontaneous presence, and remain where you are. You don't have to say that. Like Maharaj says, are you counting the in-breaths and the out-breaths and all this sort of stuff? No, these are just body stuff. All these things came along with the body, and I'm not body. I know I'm not body because I know myself in a real sense. So therefore, I can't be body. And then Master, who knew it, who is your selfless self, who knows himself in a real sense, says, no, 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 you are not body, you were not body, you're not going to remain the body. Body is not your identity. Because that formlessness that you are is speaking through another body form to tell you, no, you're not what you think you are.
I was noticing today there was like no distance between I am and I am, whereas usually I have a little bit of a trouble grasping what my I am is, and there's like a distance between.
Well, it's not your I am. It's I am that you are, but it's not yours.
Right, right.
Because there has to be something other to possess that I am, and that I am is just formlessly aware existence. So there's no my I am.
Whereas the thought about the I am sets up a distance between,
Yes.
Makes two I ams.
Immediately you're separating yourself. And that's why you just remain just just formlessly aware, naturally noticing different things that might be occurring, but not taking the touch of these things. And just remain, just I. And then there's no thinker thinking I'm just this I. There's just the I as you are. I is everything. I is spontaneous presence. As Maharaj says, invisible, anonymous, unidentified identity that you are. When you say I, that's who you truly are. Now, you may add, I am this or I am that, just for conversation purposes, but when you speak I, your I is invisible, anonymous, unidentified identity.
You can't grasp it, actually. It's basically, it's unknowable. You know, it's out of that. It's that oneness out of which everything flows, and you can't get that.
Well, and see, that is not, you just have to touch yourself. Literally, that's the best way to describe. When that formlessness, like you were saying, you remain with that presence. As you remain deeper and deeper and deeper with that presence, then you start to understand that this subtle knowing, this presence appeared on that subtle knowing, that nothingness. So I'm completely formless because all this form appeared on that presence, which appeared to that nothing that you are. So it's not like the world appeared to you. No, the world appeared on your spontaneous presence, where suddenly you know you are. And then all of that appeared from there. But you are the nothing, in that nothing has ever happened, nothing will happen, nothing's ever happening. All of these things are happening to that sense of existence in that form, that spontaneous click with the body that suddenly produced this entire world, and then you believe you were in the world.
And you're not born into a pre-existing world.
No, well, no, because it's not an individual thing. It's boom, like the Big Bang, so to speak. Boom, spontaneous presence. And you clicked with this body and thought that this was your own self inside of that spontaneous presence that you are. You are invisible, anonymous, unidentified identity that's currently utilizing this body form called Kathleen. But you are also utilizing this body form called Andrew, and called Keith, and called John, and called Mary.
And Trish.
And Trish. I know, I couldn't, because all the squiggly lines. I was just reading.
My name is not discernible, unfortunately.
Yeah. I was going across the screen just reading the names on like,
She prefers to remain anonymous.
I have no way of fixing it.
Remember the Y2K?
Yeah, that's right. That's
Maybe what I should do is quit next time and then start all over as a new person.
that could be. Well, it should.
that would- yeah,
Mine
why
hooks
am
up to
I-
my Google account.
What?
Mine hooks up to my Google account.
oh.
I don't know. I'm going to start with Kate as a new person. I'm going to
Okay.
come on and see if that does it.
You just disappeared.
Yeah, you're in the very corner of your screen.
Yeah, no.
Oh, okay.
She's camera shy.
Oh, okay. But see, your invisible, anonymous, unidentified identity, the body that you're using in this moment is on camera, but you can't be captured on camera.
You're cosmic, Trish.
Absolutely. I mean, in truth, the entire universe is your, quote, body. And as you remain with your sense of presence and you begin moving about and using mantra to remain with your selfless self, you experience yourself without a body. You no longer have this body pressure, because the only thing that keeps you in this body, or in this sense of I'm in a body, is the pressure of body knowledge of this is my name, these are the things I've done, these are the things I have to do, these are my accomplishments, these are my detriments or my karma or whatever sort of thing like this. But once you know that this is not true, and this mind just kind of stops feeding you this pressure of body knowledge, because there's nothing anymore that's pressuring you. There's nothing. You're having no pressure of body, and you can move about quite nicely without having a pressure of body. You can be walking down the street, and absolutely, until somebody smiles and says hello, and then you'll see yourself spontaneously react, there's no sense of you. Because it's the mind that pressures you to believe that you're in a body and that there's a you in this body that's moving around and is doing all these things. And you can quickly disassociate yourself from that by just again, the space in the room, identifying with the space in the room rather than the body that you're in. That space in the room is using this dead body and animating it for a brief moment and then not.
Yeah, the me sense is a construct of the mind. It
Yeah.
has nothing to do with who you really are.
Not at all.
It's just the mind made up something that said, you know, my name is, you know, Kathleen, and this is me, you know. And that's not the case because you can't define yourself. There's no definition because you said the formlessness means there's no description really.
Well, and you didn't even know that you existed until suddenly you were clicking with this body form. And you recognized the sense of existence and believed that you were in this body because you recognized all the people around you and they told you you're Kathleen. And then good job, Kathleen. Bad job, Kathleen. Kathleen, you have a future and mom and dad are going to help you prepare for your future and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
You were, as Maharaj says, you were hammered with all this extraneous body knowledge that was now the mantra is erasing all this body knowledge that you were hammered with, that you may have believed for the first part of your life, that I'm this body, but now you get to know yourself in a real sense. And like I think Maharaj has talked about a snake, you're discarding this skin and just remaining as your selfless self.
Yeah, it's interesting because I have a new little, well, she's a grandniece and she's coming in and she just looks around and there's no sense of I am this person, you are that person. Everybody's just there and she's just observing. And I thought, you know what? That's where you have to get to.
Yeah.
You look at her little eyes and there's absolutely no judgment. There's no preferences. There's just this openness, this sort of open curiosity. And I thought, wow, you know, if you could get to that state, you know, as an old person,
We just have to discard this old person.
yeah.
But everybody's going to gang up on her and convince her that she's.
Well, you know, you hate to see it, but that's the part of life, you know, you have to go through that, unfortunately. The ego has to rise and then it has to fall.
Yeah,
You know
I mean,
what I find pulls me in the most is if I get anxious or fearful. That's when I get the most identified.
But who's fearful? And whatever fear
The
you're having the fear of prior to being this, when you were in your formless nature, how was there fear?
Well, there wasn't.
Exactly. So whatever is arising right now is just in this form state world, and you're the formlessness that it's arising in. So you disregard the fear by just remaining with yourself as self. You don't have to look at the fear and say, oh, I shouldn't have this fear. By remaining with your selfless self and basically drinking that nectar of immortality, then you know, oh, no, this is occurring now, but this is only in the form state. Just as Maharaj says, when you're in a dream and you get scared of something, but you wake up and you're like, oh, glad that was over. Well, you know this is a long dream. All of this form is not occurring. When you return to your normal natural state, none of this will have happened. So now that you're using this body form, don't believe that your normal natural state is still here. This body form and these form presence and all this has appeared on your spontaneous presence. And again, that spontaneous presence occurred to you. And from that presence, all of this world arise. And it that fast, just like when you sleep at night, boom, an entire dream world's projected. When spirit clicks with the body, instantaneously an entire dream world is projected. Because it's just in consciousness that all of this is occurring. The 5 elemental bodies are continuing to reproduce and create more of themselves, and you continue to kind of animate and create all these different storylines and play with yourself.
But that is a time, like she says, where it's hard to find a way to even do the mantra when you're wrapped up in fear and stuff.
Well, there has to be a you first. So you just mantra and discard that you that you're believing before it gets a chance to turn. If suddenly something happens and you're starting to become fearful or, oh, how's this going to, or worry is happening or something like this, just remain with your selfless self. And then just by remaining with your selfless self, this fear or this thing may still be there, but you'll see it as just a cloud passing, and it's not happening to you. Nothing can happen to you. You can't be cut. You can't be burned. You can't be nothing. Nothing. All these things are occurring inside the something, and the reality is the nothing. This something appeared for a time when you clicked with this body. This body is just a 5 elemental body, like we talked about, the banana sitting on the counter. It's going to rot and be done, and that's it. But it's not you. It has nothing to do with you. You weren't born and you won't die.
That's why
Prior
Maharaj,
to existence. I'm sorry?
that's why Maharaj always says, have some courage. It takes courage to turn away.
Exactly.
I mean, you know, it's, but, you know, Ranjit used to say you can be in heaven or in hell, but still you're that reality, you know. You may be in a real tight spot, you know, but, yeah.
Yeah,
But
that's
you
what
remain, pardon me?
I think Jesus said something about, even though you make your bed in hell, there I am with you.
Yeah, because it's never gone. I mean, see, if you turn away, that's the key. Here's the world out here and it's doing something, but I'm turned inward. So this world is appearing on that spontaneous presence, and I'm turned inward. So something happens, I turn inward. Again, the most beautiful example that I can use is the food poisoning at the ashram, where all hell, quote, was breaking loose, and I was just with mantra, just mantra, mantra, mantra. Off to the India hospital, they're putting an IV, mantra, mantra, mantra. And it happens with anything, absolutely anything. And the sooner you go to mantra and discard this illusory world and all these illusory concepts and your illusory problems, the sooner you'll be back in your peace. Because basically this, see, when you are drinking from that nectar of immortality, that selfless self, intoxication, then that's what is happening. That's whatever is happening is happening. Whatever is going on is going on. I think it was Maharaj just said recently in the video that this body, 5 elemental body, so it's going to have issues. It's going to have depression may be coming. This may be coming. But you're the witness of all these things that are coming and going. You remain as you are, knowing that you're formless. See, if you're still having fear and stuff like this, then it's not because there's an I am somebody else that's appeared on your formlessness that's taking form in the form of someone that something can happen to. If you remain formless, nothing can happen to you.
It just takes time to disassociate yourself from the body, in a sense, the identification with, because it's gotten so ingrained, you know, over the years. So.
Well, that's what mantra does. And see, that's also what Maharaj has done when he told you, you are not body, you were not body, you're not going to remain the body. And that's why he says complete faith and trust in the master, so that when something happens, you just say, I am not body, I was not body, I'm not going to remain the body. Doctor just gave me 6 weeks to live. Actually, that's a joyous time because I'm going to get to observe myself leaving this body, which I've heard, because Master has said at the time that you actually unclick, so to speak, with this body form, it will be a total bliss because you, the you that you are, the formless knowledge will observe leaving form and then be finished. But that last observance, you'll know, oh, so that was appearing on my spontaneous presence. So since that is the truth, live that now.
Yeah, it's difficult. I have a friend who is incapacitated, can't move at all, and she has some disease that you know, she can't move her muscles or anything like that, and she doesn't have this particular understanding. So it's like, you know, how to be with somebody like that, you know, and she's just, you know, gets very frustrated because if you can't move your body, you know, it gets to be very frustrating. So she has to bear that, you know, what being in that. I mean, eventually it'll clear up, but she doesn't know how long it's going to be. So that's a real challenge. But she hasn't been exposed to this kind of teaching, and she's not really open to it. So there's not much I can, say.
Just remind yourself that she's the selfless self and that all of this is just illusory. You can be compassionate with your friend and, be there for her and all of that, but you don't have to be so concerned because your friend is a form that's appearing in the formlessness just as you are. Your friend is the same as your selfless self, just in a different body form.
Right. With a challenge.
Go ahead.
Yeah, just the challenge of being in that, because the identification is so strong, when your body is under siege, I don't know. I just see that happening with her, but you just have to trust that the universe is, it's unfolding the way it's supposed to unfold, I guess.
All the body forms are 5 elemental bodies. They're going to go through with whatever they need to go through with.
Yeah.
And you just remain with your selfless self. And that doesn't mean that you don't have to, you say, oh, I'm not going to do. You can still have compassion and be loving and all this kind of stuff, but it doesn't impress in you. It's not so deep in you where you're looking at that and saying, oh, I hope that doesn't happen to me, or your own mortality starts to have thoughts flowing. You just remain with your selfless self.
Right.
I think Mary has a question.
Oh, Mary, yes.
Oh, you talking? Okay, I think she's asking me a question, actually.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if she can use a computer or not. She can't move her muscles, so I guess somehow she gets hooked up to a telephone, but then she can speak, but she can't type anything or So anyway, yeah, it's a kind of strange disease. It's very unusual, I guess. So I don't know, but it passes eventually.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Guillain Barré. I don't know if you've ever heard. It's like polio. You're just completely your muscles don't work. So, but you have to go through rehab and all that kind of stuff. But it's just the body.
I was sort of noticing, I have my mother's 91 years old, and she's wearing down. She's not gonna. Well, there's no telling how long she'll last, but I talked to her about some of this stuff, and she's somewhat open to it, and but I think I'll get concerned about wanting her to see or be more open to it, but then when I start to see myself in her or in everything, kind of, it sort of takes the edge off of the concern, because it's like, I don't know, it just does.
Again, remember, I'm not trying to be, because it's going to sound cold, but all these relations came along with the body, and you're not body. If you disassociated yourself from this body right now, where's your relations? Prior to beingness, did you have any relations? After leaving the body, are there any relations? No. Only when you're in this form type existence where I'm in this form, and see, that's why you remain formlessly aware. And all these things, if there's aid to be happening, it'll happen. And if this is happening, and this is happening, and that's happening, and whatever's happening is happening. But all body relations came along with the body that you are not. So a gentle reminder is, I am not body, I was not body, I'm not going to remain the body. And you remain with yourself with self through the sense of presence. And just, again, the selfless self-intoxication. And it's not cold because there are no others. See,
that's what I mean. I start to see myself, my being in her being, is like there's no distance there.
Exactly. It's like the electricity, like Maharaj talks about, the electricity, that formless energy that's lighting the light and making the microwave and doing the refrigerator and doing the stove. The stove may conk out. Okay, the stove conks out. But the electricity is unaffected.
So yeah, that's when like I said, I lose my concern of her being a separate being then.
Yes. And the easiest way, instead of even losing your concern, lose you. Because without you, there can't be body relations. Without you, there can't be concern. Without you, you won't have a mind that's feeding you all this lines. And even saying like, oh, I'm feeling like no thoughts, but this is my mom, so I should be like worried about my mom or something. No, 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 no. When there's no you don't have to think or even not think. There's no thinking and no not thinking. There's just a nothingness, beautiful nothingness, formlessly. And in the room that you are with your mom, you're the space, and these 2 5 elemental bodies are in that space that you are.
And if you're broken down your own body identification, then your presence basically would be, there would be no fear in it. So that might be just a support, just the way you are.
Yeah, the peacefulness that you carry in the atmosphere, because you don't have that mind running and all the busyness. The peace is felt by everyone because it's your own selfless self in that body form.
Right.
Yeah, and that it comes over even over the internet. It isn't just, like I don't need to be in your room, in your kitchen.
Exactly. Exactly.
I don't know what I might have said at one point, but she said to me, once we were talking, there was somebody else there, and she was saying, well, Keith has found something in his spirituality or whatever, and he won't even care if I die. Something to that effect. I don't know what I had said at some point that made her hear that.
Yeah, you don't want to give the eulogy and be like, well, it's just a body form, put it in the ground, we're done.
That might be a little much for people to handle.
Yeah.
I just told her, well, this spirituality is just something I'll fall back on. I'm still going to have those feelings.
Of course, and feelings come and go. It's just not going to impress so much, and there's going to be suffering. Or you think, oh my God, what's going to happen? None of these things. Because you're not in time, because there's no you. When you don't have a local identification based on all this body knowledge pressuring you into one single point where time can be created, you're formless. There's no time, there's no space, there's scenes that pass before you, and you do what you can in the moment, and then the next scene comes, and there's no like timeline because you're outside of time. You're not a form. You're not a form. There's no local identification for you.
Ranjit used to always say, keep mum.
Yeah.
Unless the person is really open and kind of desiring that kind of a knowledge. Otherwise, it's best just not to even go there. You can maybe use, if you got a Christian background and a person's Christian, you can maybe do a little of that kind of, sort of thing, running it through those concepts or whatever. But
when you are silently aware without any kind of eye on that silence, it's felt. It's a peaceful atmosphere that you bring to everything, that it just radiates, because you're not trying to take anything from the scene. You're just here. So that the here-ness isn't trying to do anything. It's not trying to create anything. It's not trying to create an expectation based on actions or reactions. You're just here.
The other person appreciates your patience with them too,
And your patience will be unlimited because there's no you that's going to get disturbed. And as soon as you do start to get disturbed, then your patience, you just go back to mantra. Or you think about the story about being spat on the 50 times. A lot of times when there's any kind of irritation that's happening around, it's like, oh yeah, am I being spat on 50 times? No. Okay, remain with myself for self. No need to give this all away and do all this thing. And no, remain. It's all good. That's why I like when Maharaj just goes, okay. That's all. It's because he's in this. I'm not going to give myself away for myself with self. I'm enjoying the intoxication of selfless self. something happens, it's like, okay, it's okay.
That's like in the Gospels, you forgive 70 times 7.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because it's not worth the irritation with bringing a mind in. Because in order to bring a mind in, there has to be an I am somebody else. And then when I'm an I am somebody else, then my mind can actually, these thoughts that are flowing can actually cause my attention because I think that they're my thoughts or how I should be thinking about this thing that's not happening. That I'm creating a happening out of nothing. But remaining with mantra. Do what?
You're buying into the drama.
Exactly. You're getting lost in the circle of imagination and body knowledge.
And that's the main thing to avoid, actually, really.
Yes.
Around anyone,
Yes.
sick or not sick.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, Mary's popped up. I don't know. Are Westerners understanding family relations correctly? I don't know. Well, see, again, Westerner has to have a local identification, me, here in the West. But the space has no identification. That's why, like Maharaj says, don't say you're from India or America or this or that, or you have to travel to India. No, you're everywhere. There's no place you are not, because all of this is appearing on your spontaneous presence.
Yeah, I like the whole idea of the totality that, like I always heard this teaching that, well, it can't be any other way. And I had a hard time with that till I realized, well, it's because the totality is what, it's like it isn't done and nothing is generated by a particular person. It's all just happening.
Exactly.
In the dream,
Exactly. The electricity, again, the refrigerator doesn't get jealous if the microwave's used too much.
Yeah.
The electricity is just coming and going and everything working. All the functioning is happening in the totality, and there's no specific, as long as there's no local identification from just I, no I am somebody, that this can be a local identification and then time and then all this kind of stuff. It's just part of the total functioning. That's it. Just like the fingers on the hand, you're just one of these fingers on the hand, and one finger isn't more valuable than the other finger or any of these things. It's just, okay, it's form, but you're formless. See, all the teachings of everything, like Maharaj says, it points to one thing, that there is only Brahman, the absolute formless existence. So when you know yourself in a real sense, that label has been put on that formless existence, Brahman, Atman, Paramatman, God, Master. So this formlessness that you are is labeled these things that is being spoken about in the books, but once you touch yourself, once you remain with yourself, the self, you can throw the books away because they led you to the point of knowing yourself in a real sense. And then you can start to look and say, okay, well, that's what that meant or this meant. No, but you're whatever it says, like whatever master is up on the chair and talking whatever he can be talking, but you're just radiating with your selfless self. You're in the selfless self intoxication is just flowing throughout your entire existence. So basically whatever that's saying is just to point you back to the ultimate truth that you are.
Right, that all religions are true. It's just that they're coming at it from different angles. You may be raised, Christian or whatever, but then you study Hindu and you see, oh, okay, so it sheds light, on whatever, because it's the same, the truth is the truth, so if you're getting it from one tradition and you get it from another, it's like they're saying the same thing if it's true.
But know this, that all religions are man-made and they were just there to get you to the sense of presence.
Right.
Every single religion, if it boils all down to it, is pointing to the formless existence. And that formless existence, that sense of presence, Once that, then you've transcended religion, because the purpose of the religion was to get you to a place where you could be silently in that prayer type devotional state with your own selfless self, and the presence arises. Now, you may only feel it, like some people, when they go to church and they're holding out their hands and they feel a presence, but they're just not identifying that presence as their own self. They identify it as something outside, but you feel that presence. So once you feel that presence, and you don't need to say, oh, that's God, and I can't say that that's not me. No, you know this sense of presence, and you just keep diving in, and it teaches you everything. Yes, this sense of presence that's been labeled God, Brahman, Atman, Paramatman, Master, is your own selfless self. And even selfless self is a label on that. Oh, hold on. In Scandinavia, I've heard the elderly are,
Warehoused?
warehoused. And families rarely visit these days. Well, remember, I watched Vikings, and they used to throw the elderly, well, actually, the elderly people were responsible for throwing themselves over in the waterfall. When they got to a certain age, they would take all the elderly people and have them jump off this waterfall. If you watch Vikings,
It saves our medical expenses.
exactly. It's like, okay, you're no longer a functioning mentality. Off the mountain you go. The scary thing was, back in Viking days, like, I'm 50, that would have been considered one of the guys who needs to go jump off the thing. Because if you were a warrior and you hadn't died in battle by that time, then they were just like, well, you're no good. Just go.
Where did you see this at?
In Vikings.
Where did you see it? It's just history, and no, that's all.
Yeah, it's on the History Channel. The whole series of Vikings, but you can see it. It's like the one guy, actually, he gets very upset because he's like 30-something and hasn't died in battle. So he has to, they're like, oh, you're never going to get to Valhalla. And he's like, oh, let me come along with you just so I can be killed in battle and get into Valhalla. So
That's familiar. The 911 stuff, you know, they wanted to meet the Vestal Virgin, so they were talked into doing the planes.
yeah, I mean, these are the illusory concepts that, when believed in, appear so real. And basically, it's all just appearing on the spontaneous presence that you are. And all of this, all the way back to the dinosaurs. The dinosaurs, the same space and sky that the dinosaurs saw is there now. And the same spontaneous presence is the same. It's exactly, all of this is arising on spontaneous presence. Whoops. Hold on. We have stories of realized masters honoring their families, whereas Ramana had a samadhi built for his mother. Okay. It was good. Different strokes for different folks. I don't know.
He also had something built for his cow.
Yes.
Lakshmi the cow.
Lakshmi the cow, yeah.
Apparently woke up, and he built a monument to her on the ashram.
Well, Maharaj says, really, with the family, you take the responsibilities of the family, you honor them, you're affectionate with them. So basically, there is, although you realize what this is really kind of like not real, nevertheless, you still play the part.
And that's everything.
Right.
That's your job. That's your friends, your family. That's everything. You still just play your part, be there. But you know in a deep sense, yourself in a real sense, that this cannot be. So you just don't take the touch. You don't take the pressure. And then it's very, very, very nice. Yes, Andrew.
Sounds like a radio going in the background somewhere.
That's my wife. She's on another phone talking to a bride.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, the bride must go forward.
Yeah.
The show must go on.
Yeah. It's not disturbing you too much, is it?
No.
Okay.
Just, I thought somebody had, like a radio on or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, literally just use this body as a cup to dip into that nectar of immortality, that presence, that selfless self, and just drink it up. In every opportunity, drink it up. Remain with your selfless self, remain with the sense of I am, remain with the presence, and turn away from this illusory passing world because it is illusory and passing. And have the courage to know that when you turn away from the illusory passing world, when you're still doing whatever you're doing, you're still taking care of family, you're still taking care of job and responsibilities and going and shopping and all this kind of stuff, but you're not taking the touch. It's scenes appearing before you, and because you don't have a you are, there is no local identification that I'm in this scene. This is just a scene. Spontaneous actions in the moment without taking credit for the action after the fact and saying, I did XYZ. And therefore, since I did this, I expect something to happen. So there's an I am somebody else that performed an action that expects something to happen. Therefore, I'm lost in body knowledge. And I'll keep impressing this body knowledge because my mind, flow of thoughts, identification will say, you did this. And or even meditation. Oh, look, there's no thoughts in my mind right now. Again, I've separated myself from the formlessness by creating a thought form about myself not having thoughts.
Yeah, and especially bad when it works in the negative because, like, well, I did something bad or I didn't do something I should have done. And that can be a source of a lot of suffering because...
You just have to leave it.
Yeah.
Use the body in the moment to perform whatever it is and leave it. If it happens to be something bad, then you, at that time, you face it. Oh, okay, let's face this, whatever this is. I overdrew my checking account. Oh, such a terrible thing. Okay, let me face that now. But not worry about it and say, what is that going to produce in the long run and how that's happening? And oh my God, I'm so stupid. I can't believe that I messed up. All these things are not needed.
Or even all the psychological reasons as to why you did that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's just it's an action. You have to look at every action as you pick up the water, you drink it, you put it down. Thought comes, I'm thirsty. This action is performed using the egoic sense of body, and I put it down, and then I remain back formless. And then I come back in and I do this thing again. And it's spontaneous. It's not like you have to think about all these types of things. It's just like boom, boom, boom. Like Maharaj says, I'm having breakfast. Okay, I have breakfast. I enjoy my breakfast. Then I have lunch. I enjoy my lunch. I have dinner. I enjoy my dinner. But I'm not memorizing all these things. It's just natural body actions occurring spontaneously without a doer, without a sense of doership being impressed because there's no body knowledge to impress the fact that I am somebody doing something.
And when you bring in a judgment, that when it brings in the doer because that means that, there's something judging the action.
Yeah, and see, if there's no you, there can't be any judging of right or wrong actions because it's just the formlessness performing an action in the moment and forgetting it. And then if that action comes back and it says, oh, that wasn't so good, then the formlessness can go, oh, okay, well, sorry about that. I didn't mean to do any harm. That's why you can't do deliberate harm, because deliberate harm, if you do a deliberate act and you take the ego to do a deliberate harm to someone, this universal self that you are will project that in your experience, that you took this body form, this egoic sense of self to harm Kathleen for some reason, or you're harboring whatever. This cannot be. Because then...
Isn't that karma?
Well, again, that's... In the karma is when you take credit for actions of what you're doing. And if I specifically say, I'm going to make sure this person pays for that, and I go out and do that, that's a deliberate act where, like it talks about, the selfless self will allow you to take credit for things if you're believing you're a doer and separate and apart from. Because that, even though it's illusion, The mind is there to produce the idea that this is the reality. I did something to this person, watch them suffer. But that's that person and these thoughts and all these things, this entire thing is an image projection on your spontaneous presence. You are the formlessness in form. However, the body knowledge that's impressed, I am someone doing this bad thing. I hope I don't get caught, which is, of course, ridiculous because anyway.
Catch you.
Yeah, you are catching you,
Yeah.
and you will suffer, quote unquote, through, like you said, karmic debt of this mind ego intellect that comes into play and impresses more body knowledge on you. You cannot be free if you're constantly getting caught up in the body knowledge. And if you're getting caught up in the body knowledge from a negative thing, this is very bad because you're sitting there literally impressing the fact that you are making something happen against someone. It's all illusory, but for the body, mind, and ego and intellect and all these sort of things activating and actually creating this action and these reaction, no. So lost down in the illusory world because even doing good things and thinking that they're good can get you lost in the illusory world. Because this sense of I, it's just I. There's no body. No body at all.
Yeah.
And the mantra erases all the body knowledge slowly, silently, and permanently. What's the mind that's sitting there keeping you kind of pressed in that I am here and I'm having these thoughts? When that loosens up, it's freedom. You're wearing the body like these loose clothes, very nicely. You're not impressed. There's no local identification because you're space. With two eyes, just kind of seeing and using hands and such and doing this and this. But it's literally just scenes passing before you. And you're not even witnessing because, like Maharaj says, you watch the sunrise and it's there. So you're looking at it. It's rising. But there's no like witnessing of the sunrise. You're not actively witnessing the sunrise. It's just sun is rising. And it all boils down to know yourself in a real sense. Because when you know yourself in a real sense, then nothing else will matter at all to you. Nothing. Nothing can be impressed on you because it's all just a dream. Long dream, spirit clicked with the body, and you say, you suddenly know you exist. Where previously you did not know you existed, but obviously you existed to know your own existence.
No body and nothing is true, right?
Yeah, nothing. Everything is taken lightly, and seen, as long as you're using body form, seen as an opportunity for you to have the courage to step out of the illusory circle of body knowledge. Whatever something that's happening that might be causing stress, or like Trish said, is fear or something like this, you use this as a moment to have you take one step, master takes the next step, and you step out of the illusory circle of body knowledge because you know it's not true. And now here's a chance for you to show your own selfless self it's not true, and to erase just a little bit more of the illusory body knowledge because you'll witness yourself performing these actions without an actor.
Ranjit used to say, step out of you break out of the circle of ignorance, then you go back into the circle.
Right.
Yeah.
But you now know what it's like to be outside of the circle of ignorance.
Yeah. Right.
So when you're in the circle of ignorance, that memory, so to speak, has been impressed that, okay, I'm appearing inside this circle of ignorance, but truly, that's not my position.
And that's where all the activities get carried out. Basically,
Yes.
the things you do and all that, yeah.
Some people probably, me too. I don't take it all the way out. There's still sticking points, plenty of sticking points.
Whatever the sticking point is, realize that that's an opportunity to take one step forward, master takes the next. And then that little sticking point that seemed big will seem like nothing. And then you again, in your own experience, will create a more difficult sticking point. that you then again use mantra or remain with yourself as self and walk through that. Eventually, nothing is going to be, the sticking point will be, oh, I'm having a heart attack, and remaining with myself as self. You know, because it's leading up to, like Maharaj says, all the knowledge that you currently have. Will it be helpful at the time of leaving the body? If you know yourself in a real sense, when the time comes to leave the body, it won't make sense, for one thing. But you're like, oh, you're dying. Oh, okay, yeah, okay, I'm dying. Yeah. You understand? Because there's no sense of a dying. There's no body sense. There's no body knowledge compressed that there's some item dying. I think it was Ramana Maharshi who said, well, where will I go?
Yeah.
Like, they say I'm dying, but where will I go? It literally, because you won't have a mind that's trying to logically interpret what's happening, it won't make sense. People will say you're dying, but it won't make sense to you.
Yeah, because you're not dying.
Because you're nothing. And you've been living as nothing for so long that the idea of now I'm something so that I can die, just, it won't, no. Although if I'm taking medicines, okay, I'm taking medicines. I'm using this body to take medicines. But I haven't had the touch of body knowledge for so long that I won't even remember. My memory is my own selfless self and my true formlessness in the reality. The illusory nature of this body and this body knowledge is long since past. So that memory is it's not. Only the memory of my own formless presence that spontaneously in each and every moment I'm refreshing the memory that, oh yeah, I am spontaneous presence. And when things come along that try to get me back into the illusory ditch, no, I impress again my memory of I'm the formless presence. Bowing to the masters, listening to the bhajans, listening to the speaking, remaining with my selfless self, and seeing these things that are arising in my daily things as opportunities to get to know myself in a real sense. A door has been opened, so to speak, and Maharaj is standing on the other side of it. That's the reality. The illusion is I have a problem, a big problem. But the reality is the door has opened, and Maharaj, your selfless self, is beckoning you from the other side. Please walk through the door.
It's interesting that you would use the word memory of my real self as a sort of liberating thing, whereas normally I would think that all memory is always dragging me back into the body knowledge.
No. Well, memory refreshing spontaneously.
Yeah.
That I am selfless self. I am not body. I was not body. I'm not going to remain the body. All of this is appearing on my spontaneous presence. So I'm refreshing that memory, the reality, and discarding all of the illusory stuff that's trying to stick to that reality. And see, there's nothing that can stick because, again, you're formless.
It's like a redefinition of memory in a sense.
I think Maharaj has said before, you're refreshing your memory. And for the opportunity in every moment, this spontaneous presence, you're refreshing your memory. You no longer remember what this illusion is not touching you anymore because there's nothing it can stick to. If there's a thought that comes in about something in the form world, it just won't make sense. Oh, Mary says, namaste.
Namaste, Mary.
Namaste. Oh, it's 8:17. Huh.
Yeah, it's past your bedtime, John.
Indeed. All right. Well, thank you, everyone.
Okay.
Thank you.
See you
Thank
next
you very
week.
much.
See ya.
Thank you.